vote in public session to approve this contract, or whether we need to just schedule another meeting, have it, even if it's a 5-minute meeting, have the vote later on and do it then. Does that make sense?
We have a basic concept, which we have not necessarily stuck to very well. I'd like to think we could consider this for maybe minutes, but even that, which is that during a working session, we attempt to not take votes. Now, certainly when we're trying to get through a lot of budget things, we understand that we're taking votes because those are working sessions and there's lots of stuff going on. But certainly things like agreements and contracts that we would approve of $5,000 or $50,000 to buy something, whatever. I believe those are things that we had as a kind of policy to do in normal meetings. So I would say that the CBA certainly falls within that category.
So let me ask a question here. Our next scheduled public regular Monday meeting is, I believe, July 13th. Deb, is that correct?
Yes.
And my question to you, Kevin, is there harm done if we have to wait till then, if at least we've come to a consensus in this meeting? Is that sufficient, or do we have to vote sooner?
So I think it would be the preference of the two bargaining units, and working in good faith with them. Probably my preference, if possible, to do before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
The contract expires June 30th, and one of the reasons I think we were able to get to where we are today is that we know that shot clock's been ticking and we're getting close. So I think everyone's hope and intent, and also from an accounting standpoint too, it makes it a little bit easier for operations if it's done before the end to make those changes without retroactively having to go back and make additional changes. So preference would be before the end of the fiscal year, which would be June 30th if possible.
Is there any reason that we couldn't schedule a meeting for the 29th? It's not our regular one, but we have time to do it legally now, either the 29th or the 30th, or as far as I'm concerned, we could do it no, we don't have time for this Thursday evening. Well, I guess we technically do. So if we're going to do a public meeting, I guess my preference, and I'll admit right off the bat, there's a bit of selfishness in it. I'd like to do it this Thursday evening. I have a dinner appointment, a distancing dinner appointment on a lawn with friends on Monday, the 29th. However, town business takes precedence. So if we have to, I would, I don't know what I'd do. I guess I'd have to find a place to leave the meeting and leave that and do this. But would it be possible for Thursday evening? Is that an acceptable and if workable solution?
It's fine for me.
7 p.m. start, Mr. Chairman? Is that what you're thinking?
That would work for me. And we have time to post it. We have our 48 hours, right, Deb?
Yep. Would that be the only item on the agenda?
I think it would be, unless there's something else that comes out of this. But for the moment, we will have decided as a result of today's discussion what would be in that agenda. And so I'd be okay with that. Dick, would that be an appropriate solution?
We could do that. That is not in keeping with the real spirit that we have, which is during a regular meeting. The request that I would have is that we try to arrange to have it posted on the PEG channel, if you would, and have it put out live as it is and then recorded.
He won't be able to do.
I think it's that important. These are contracts.
Yeah, I don't think we. Deb, tell me about the recording.
He won't be able to do live this short notice. He needs at least a week's notice to go live if it's off the regular calendar schedule.
And that would be Monday as well.
Right.
We're shy a week on that one. So
it wouldn't be live until the 13th would be the live one. He could record it, but that's the best he could do at this point.
Well,
since we have biweekly pay, it would seem that it's certainly easy to do it the first Monday in July instead of the 29th, in other words, and you have dinner and whatever else. If we can give a week's notice to the channel to go ahead and record it. And
what date were you looking for? The 6th? There's nobody.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
People weren't going to be here. That's why we didn't schedule a meeting on the 6th.
That's why we bumped it up to the 13th.
That's a holiday time. That's not a very good time anyway.
I mean, if we wanted on Monday, hopefully this is a very quick. The intent for the meeting to take in public session would be to, we'll go through the contracts today. Hopefully, the intent for that next meeting, where it comes out of the executive, we'll be able to make any type of statements or whatever it is the board's desire. But it would, we know what's in the contracts. We know what we're voting on. Hopefully, it's not a very long meeting. That's the hope, at least. Unless and again, I haven't done this in Topsfield before, so I'm just making some assumptions, and I apologize for that. But in the essence of trying to find a date, if it's a quick one, I don't know if we can work with Brad. I feel like in good faith with our team members, I'd really like to try to get this done, because some of the things we agreed to, they've worked really hard to try to get back to me, and vice versa, before the end of the fiscal. And I think that's part of them going back to their memberships and getting a consensus. So I'm just wondering if it's, I'll make whatever work, because it's really important on my end that we get this done, and hopefully before the end of the fiscal. And we'll work with Brad. I mean, we'll make the call anyway. At least, if very minimum, we'll have it recorded no matter what date it is, and view me as quickly thereafter. We'll see if we can pull some favors and get it on there live if possible.
So I'm going to suggest Monday the 29th. It's a little bit more time. I do recognize the value of doing this before the end of the fiscal year. So I would like to suggest we will do it before the end of the fiscal year. This is a very unusual circumstance, I'm the first to admit. Dick, I do recognize we have tended to put votes of this kind on the regular meetings rather than the working sessions. And I'm willing to, even though I know there's not a requirement, I recognize the pattern. I'm not sure how many people outside of us do, but that's okay. I'm willing to make adjustments in my schedule and I assume these people have Wi-Fi. So if I have to excuse myself for half an hour for a meeting, I may put that way. It's a priority. So let's plan on Monday, the 29th and a 7 p.m. Okay.
Great.
That gives time to post, little time to get ready. Dick, you will certainly be able to record. I don't know if there's any passive recording that we may be able to do, Deb, for putting up. But Dick, if you put yours on YouTube, and we have another way of, we can record this right off Zoom, and then can't we access the Zoom and put that online?
Correct. Yeah, because I save it to the cloud, and I usually give that to Brad Sweet, and he can put it out.
Okay, so I'd like to suggest we do that as a compromise between Dick's points and your concern, Kevin, that we try to do this before the end of the fiscal year. I'd like to preserve your relationship with our union and other contracted personnel. So,
and if anything, there's still, like, from the MOA to the contract and ratification, there's still some steps in the process. I'm going to do everything in my powers to try to move this along for everybody.
Yep.
If coming into, say, Thursday or Friday, we're not ready, it's not where it needs to be, we could certainly postpone, and then we'll come up with another date as needed. But
I'm going to let you be the arbiter on that, because you're the one who stated that you'd like to get it done this fiscal year. But let's give you an opportunity to do it the way you hope you can do it. And if it doesn't work that way, we'll have to figure something out. But for the moment, let's plan on that. Is that an acceptable compromise, Dick?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll aim to have an official meeting on the evening of that Monday. And also, I think Boyd will be able to be there. And the other thing is that although it's short notice and a little out of synchronization with our calendar, I think some of our regular attendees would be able to make that. So
in the past, John and Dick, because I haven't been here for these large contracts, is there usually a presentation like the one that we're going through today given on the live session before we vote, so that people understand what it is we're voting on, or are we just taking a vote?
We can definitely talk about the main components of the contract. I think that's in the spirit of transparency. We haven't always done it in the past, but I think that sharing the main components and so on, some people understand what those implications are. Not everybody does, but we're sharing it and so on. I think it's very important that we reach a consensus. I do not want to be debating contract matters in open session. So I think it's important that we've reached our consensus and will not put the contracting process in debate on Monday. That's my only request.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks. I just didn't know what
Yeah.
the usual
Obviously,
process was.
That's what we'd like to do. But it is also important, as you pointed out, I think, in my mind, to have Boyd involved in this. And
Yeah.
without question, if it's done on the 29th, we probably will have an additional board member that will be part of this.
That's a good point. That's a good point too. So I think on that basis, then we'll go to the 29th. I will also ask in anticipation of that, you raise a very good point, Dick. We're all assuming, given the fact there's 3 people running for 3 seats, that Marshall will be elected. Kevin, I would ask.
Will be elected, but I would say I would expect at least an additional person to be on the board. Let's leave it that way.
Yeah, let's leave it that way. So,
otherwise, but
assuming that we have an extra person on the board, as we all expect,
a full board.
Kevin, I would ask that you contact the new member and brief them on this in advance, so that, and if necessary, I could get involved. Frankly, I'd prefer to have you do that, so that he is prepared, kind of aware, understands what we're doing and why, and so on. And we don't have to.
But not until after he's sworn in on
Exactly.
Friday.
That's why.
I do want to make sure that happens. It's just,
yeah, you may be able to. I'll let you work out whether you talk with him on Thursday afternoon or Friday, or it's going to be Friday afternoon or Monday morning. But if you could do that, Kevin, then that will kind of close the loop with that individual. And as Dick says, we'll have a full board for the first time in quite a while, which would be good. So
for the agenda for the 29th, then, would it strictly be the approval of these contracts, or would it also be the discussion on the positions and the schedule, or would we wait for the 13th for that?
I don't know, Kevin, that's up to you if you want to propose a schedule, if you want to add that in so we can get that tacked down. I don't have a problem with that if it's a way to use the time. Again, from a selfish point of view, given the fact I'm going to be ducking out of the first outside dinner I will have gone to in several months, I prefer to keep it fairly short. But if you think it's important to take advantage of the opportunity to propose a schedule, my own feeling is
more so probably more the elections, because I remember after the elections last time, Boyd then opened the meeting until we had a discussion about who was going to be chair.
Yeah, that's the issue that we have. Yeah, the organization meeting, that actually, on that basis, then Monday really becomes the organizational meeting, because if we have a revised board, I think it's important that we basically make our decisions on who are going to be the officers within the group of 5 of us. If we can do that, then perhaps that's worth it. But I think I'd rather put the schedule out to the 13th. And
it's not urgent.
Yeah, you've sent that out. And also at this point, our new member could get it and look at it, and it won't put tremendous amount on him right at the very beginning.
But just for Debbie, because I think Debbie had mentioned, is that the only item? So we'd need to have it on the agenda if we're going to do that.
Yeah, I think doing the organization piece would be a good thing to do then. Dick, you in agreement on that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So reorganization, that'll be the first agenda item. Second will be a vote on the fireman's contract. I'm presuming that's the only one. If something else comes up, we've got a day or two that we can add it. Or
fire and police?
So if it's both contracts, then we will have both on there. That will be the agenda at that point, with the following meeting scheduled. No working sessions until or anything. The next meeting of the Board of Selectmen will be a regular meeting on July 13th. We all set on that? So in this case, that means this meeting is we will not return to open session, will be the flavor of the motion that needs to be made.
Do you want
Yes.
to? Okay, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just was thinking, because if we have, so the board has to vote on the MOA, and acceptance of that, that's what we're going to take up on the 29th. I'm just thinking a timeline. We get the contract ready to go. I think we can move pretty quick. I think we'll be okay. I was playing it through my mind in the timeline. I think that's fine. Thank you.
Let's stay in touch about that and so on. I don't want to waste the public's time, but I also don't want to hold things up any longer than necessary. So, sorry, I got to make space for the dog. Hey, kids. So, Kevin, you and I will talk about and coordinate that, and we'll put it out in more detail to the board members. And particularly Thursday at 7:30 p.m., we'll know who it has to go out to, and so any updates can be done at that time.
Sounds great.
Well,
Dick, yes.
what was that about Thursday at what? I missed
March
the point.
3rd, the 5th of Selectmen.
In other words, any updates that need to, we technically can't send an update out to a new board member until
Oh,
they've
right.
been elected.
Now I got it. Yes, I understand.
Yeah,
You're
you see
talking
what I'm
about
saying?
a new board member. Thank you.
Yeah, so any updates can go out at that time. And I will leave it to you, Kevin, and the new board member to become acquainted with any background necessary, since the other four of us have been talking for quite a while about this. I think that's good. So if we're agreed on that, then what I'd like to do is move to executive session. And
I
Lynn,
motion by a roll call.
you have the language, Dick?
Yeah. I motion that by a roll call vote, the board will enter into closed executive session in accordance with Mass General Law 30 Alpha, Section 21A, under Exemption 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, if any open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining and litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. The board will not return to open session, and the purposes of this are for the fire department collective bargaining agreement and for the police department collective bargaining agreement.
Is there a second? We have a second from Lynn. I'll take a roll call vote at this point. Lynn?
Aye.
Dick?
Aye.
John? Aye. And so we're unanimous. We are now going into executive session. And